The session. Sophie, a very good afternoon to you. Dlamini-Zuma touching mainly on Agenda 2063, saying that they're not waiting on the agenda, it's already underway.
Yes, she said indeed they are already on an implementation phase, saying that 2063 it's the year in which they will do a review in terms of the implementations, because there are different phases. You look at infrastructure. You are aware that the South African President Jacob Zuma is leading that team that's looking at infrastructure. You also have other leaders, particularly the President of Mauritius, who's looking at agriculture in particular. You also have President Kenyatta from Kenya, who's looking at issues pertaining to the APRM and ensure that the issues of countries who are in the continent are accountable to ensure the skills development and taking care of its citizens. But when you look at countries such as Rwanda, the focus there is issues of technology. You are aware that that country is quite advanced in terms of technology. Therefore, implementation has started. You are also aware that there was a project started by the AU in terms of illicit financial flow out of Africa. They are working hard to ensure that many institutions and many countries support the continent to ensure that we don't lose what we have, and what we have is for the benefit of the citizens of this continent.
And Sophie, then having said that, I suppose that highlights the skills gap that needs to be addressed to ensure that the agenda is reached.
In any country, skills development is important. If you want a country to develop, you have to focus on skills development. It is for that reason she made a call to leaders in the continent to ensure that they focus on skills development. She also mentioned the fact that now it's time for the continent to look at a curriculum that will help the young people in particular to have the much needed skills in the field, in different fields, to ensure that they can contribute to the development of the economy in different countries, but also the continent can benefit. She also made example of the economy that we still have to tap into. For an example, the ocean economy, saying that we have 2 oceans. We also have nice places where people can visit as part of tourism, but it looks like we are not doing much to ensure that we promote those type of economy, and we must ensure that we use the economy as a springboard to meeting the needs and the demands of people in the continent.
Issue of peace and security on the continent, and she'll be going to Angola soon. What are her plans for that trip?
Silencing the gun, it's one clause in the Agenda 2063, and for this to happen, peace and stability is key. Indeed, tonight she'll be leaving for Angola, where the Great Lakes region will meet. The leaders who forms part of the Great Lakes regions will be discussing the current situation in the DRC. You are aware that the country has decided to postpone elections, and therefore there is violence in that country. And Dr. Dlamini-Zuma, a former Foreign Affairs Minister of South Africa, was quite involved in bringing peace in that region, and therefore she will this time around join the leaders as the AU chair to discuss ways and means to ensure that DRC doesn't again experience instability and war, because to rebuild a country after the war, it's a problem. She also mentioned countries such as South Sudan, where there is tension and many people are displaced, saying that it's up to the African leaders to ensure that there is peace in South Sudan. But Burundi as well, I think it's one country where there is instability, and I think the African Union must do something to ensure that there's peace in Burundi. But in general, there must be peace in the continent, and therefore silencing the gun will continue to be one important point in the Agenda 2063. But it's up to the leaders of the continent to ensure that there is peace. But she also made mention of the fact that we have to strengthen the institutions in the continent, because it's only when you have strong institutions where you don't have big men in areas where there's leadership. On the continent, you really have to strengthen all the institutions that are there that strengthen democracy and good governance.
Sophie, thank you very much. Our foreign editor, Sophie Mokoena, live from Pretoria. Well, a Cape Town mother of 3 is out on bail after she was arrested for plotting a hit on her husband. She was granted bail of 30,000 rand in the Wynberg Magistrates Court this morning. 44-year-old Patina Kutsia